Anna, I reckon what I'm going to do is throw over to you because you've prepared your PowerPoint, and then we can bring everybody onto the screen. If they've got questions, you and I can have a little chat about it. And if they need any feedback, for their project,
Awesome.
we can do that together. All right. So I will mute myself so I don't interrupt you.
Brilliant. Hi, guys. So, as Miss Jane said, I'm from Glenbrook Ballet Theatre. This is my 15th year there as a student, and I've done all of the dance step levels. And I'm here to talk about the personal projects that I did when I was in levels 5 and 6. The first thing that I'd like to say before we actually talk about what I did for my events was planning. I got a book and in it has all the notes from my dance step stuff. It like all the events that I did, all the dances that I had to create for like warm-ups and stuff that I had to do as part of the program. I wrote it all down in here and I still use it. Like every now and then I fill in as a teacher and I still write down everything that I do in this book. It's very, very handy. So I recommend getting a book or using a Word document or something similar because it's a good way to brain dump. Like, as you can see with the notes, you probably can't read them very clearly, but that was just for one event. And that was just my first round of notes. Like, I just brain dumped on the page and thought, what do I need to do? And then I was able to organize them and think, how do I get that done in order to actually pull off um, a successful event? Because at the end of the day, we want to we don't want the event to become a burden to our studio owners. We want to be able to put on something that's fun where we are actually doing most of the work. And so in order for that, I recommend having somewhere where you can just dump down all your notes, all your thoughts, even if they don't make sense to you at the time, you just write them out and then you go back later and you're like, that kind of makes sense now. A lot of my notes were a lot like that, and I had arrows going everywhere. But planning is the most important part because a well-planned event will run very, very smoothly, I have found. So for level 5, we did a production that year as our end of year concert, and we did Mary Poppins. And so I organized a movie night where we watched Mary Poppins as a studio. So for this event, we had pizza for dinner, we had juice boxes. Um, so a lot of organization went into making sure that we had dietary requirements and had enough pizza for everyone and that sort of thing. I also created, you can kind of see little social media posts that were, here's a clue about the event, try and guess it. And then in the end, we had the big reveal, and it was fun seeing everyone try and guess what was going on. And then in this, we had pajama week that week as well. So you can kind of see me in my pajamas there. I got everyone to like, sit down and we watched the movie together. There was a lot of planning behind the event because I had to like set up the studio, get information out, get dietary requirements and all that sort of stuff. But when the event was actually happening, like I pressed play on the movie and that was pretty much it besides serving the pizzas. Like, so that event wasn't too much on the day, but it was a lot of prep work beforehand. For level 6, I did 2 events. I was very, very lucky to have one of my friends doing level 6 with me. Her name was Carolina, and we decided to put on 2 events and do them together. So we could, like, we still did the sort of one event each, but we worked on them together, which I also recommend. It was really nice working with someone, and that's a skill that, like, I'm going to be able to use in my future in my career and all that. But it was also nice being able to be like, hey, these are my strengths. And these are my weaknesses. Do they happen to be your strengths? And Carolina and I managed to balance each other out pretty well with our strengths and weaknesses. So we pulled off 2 very amazing events. Our first one was a Hawaiian themed disco, which we hosted in July, as a beat the winter blues. Let's have some summer fun. As you can see, we all dressed up in Hawaiian sort of outfits. This event didn't require as much planning beforehand because, like, for the movie event, people had to sign up and then we had to organize pizzas. Whereas this one, we had Zupa Dupas, as you can see in this bottom corner, in the middle of the screen, sorry. We had decorations, and but other than that, it was, and then we made a playlist. But then on the night, it was about engaging with the kids and being that joyful face and singing with them. There were quite a few High School Musical songs that we sang all together as a group. And to begin with, it was really nerve-wracking, sorry, standing up and talking to people and like leading games or like we did the Hokey Pokey, we played the Bluey theme song to see who would sing it at the top of their lungs. Um, and it can be very nerve-wracking trying to talk in front of people, but like we got to work together to get over that. And it was a really nice event. It was a fundraiser for our second event. Our studio that year turned 15, which was very, very exciting for us. Miss Jessie, who was our studio owner, had been running the studio for 15 years. So we put together a Gatsby themed gala. This one, must say, I'm very glad that Carolina and I did it together because it took a lot of planning. It took a lot of communication between different venues. But so it kind of boosted our skills in communicating with people who like we wouldn't talk to otherwise. Like I don't just call up, like we had it in Panthers in Glenbrook. I don't just call up Glenbrook Panthers every now and then and be like, hey, how's it going? Never done that before in my life. I hadn't really spoken to many businesses like that. But we had a cake and we had people come back from like who used to be at the studio. So there was a lot of advertising that went into it and other fundraising so that because people had to buy their tickets so they could have food. We did a lot of fundraising to try and minimize the costs of tickets. And then, yeah, there was setup. So we created the photo booth wall and stuff. We had to set up the chairs and tables on the night. We had a little balloon garland, and I think there's a 1 and a 5 there somewhere. My screen's a bit cut off. But then Carolina and I put together a speech for our studio owner. We got her flowers and a gift basket, which again took a lot of planning. With a lot of the planning, Miss Jessie had to be our point of communication because we aren't able to just organize it ourselves. We can do a lot of the behind the scenes planning, but every step we had to go with Miss Jessie, you can see there. But for the flowers that we got for her, we had to talk to students that were like, we had senior students donate money to it so that we could get her a really nice, beautiful bouquet. But we had to try and do that without her finding out, which was probably one of the most interesting parts of the event. And so, yeah, like I think planning is the most important part of events, but also having fun when you're there. All of these events were stressful at times. I am not going to deny that. But like, especially the gala, because it was a very big thing to pull off. But it was so worthwhile because everyone was having fun. Like you can see in the photos of the gala, especially, everyone's got a smile on their face. We had games, we had food, we had speeches and presentations and stuff, but everybody just enjoyed hanging out with each other. And yeah, to begin with of the gala, I was running around like crazy. I was running from the room that we were at down 2 sets of stairs to get to the front door to be like, hey guys, welcome. Let me run you back up the stairs to our room. We ran back down. I was in high heels for the event as well. Not the best idea. So if you ever pull off a gala, don't wear high heels to it. And then I was running around trying to make sure that the food was sorted and this table didn't have enough drink. But once everything was settled, it was one of the best nights of my life. Seeing all the hard work that I went into it and it went off smoothly, it went off beautifully, and people still talk about it at the studio. It was 2 years ago, I think. And like every now and then, like we have photo albums and stuff, and so people will see the photos and they'll talk about what they did and the memories and who wore what dress and how different people were dressed up for the Gatsby Gala because people took that differently. Like one of my friends here dressed up in like a very, very on theme outfit, whereas some of us were just wearing fancy dresses and some people showed up in really nice suits. Like it was a great event, and so were all the others that we did. Like Carolina and I pulled off a lot of good events together, and we still do among the studio. Like I've got a trivia night coming up that I'm about to do with the studio, which my studio doesn't know about yet, but like the students don't. But so that took a lot of planning. I've had to make PowerPoints and make sure that things run smoothly with all the questions and stuff. But it's so worth it to see it on the day.
Mm.
And then, as Miss Jane did say, I am taking on the position of DanceStep coordinator at my studio. So I run the information days and training days as well. So I put those together, and then, yeah, you can see our current team in the middle there.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm exhausted just listening because from somebody who has hosted lots of events, I have huge understanding about that behind the scenes. And you are so right. It's all in the planning and it can be a bit, the planning can be a bit boring, can't it? But it makes
Mm.
a smooth event.
And it feels really good once you've like accomplished it and you're like, I did that. Like whether
Yes.
you do it with someone or not, like Carolina and I did those last two events together, but looking back,
Yes.
we could just talk to each other and be like, we did that. Like,
Yeah. And then, put event planner on your resume as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Anna.